Hey, so it's me from the future. So I'm starting off this video a little bit different. So I've already done the install. Everything all went pretty well. Yeah, I just want to give a little disclaimer. I kind of ended the video on a negative note saying, hey, wasn't sure about it. I was kind of second guessing myself. I had some time to think about it. I got cleaned up and had a freshened head. So this is a brand new suspension setup. Completely brand new springs, brand new struts. It's going to need some time to break in. I knew that. I know that. So, with that said, my test drive and stuff like that, I was kind of nervous. It was making some new noises, very bouncy. But I gotta remember when I put the CRV quick struts in, it was really stiff and crazy, and I was like, oh, this does not feel good, but whatever. So, with that said, I'll put some miles on it, do a little bit of off-road testing after I get that all done, and then maybe I'll give it a second opinion. But for now, just enjoy the install. It's kind of a long one. Thanks, guys. What are we doing today, Enzo? You gonna bite the GoPro? Boop it. Today, we are trying something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. If you take a little peeky in there, you'll see that is not the same struts and springs I've had in there before. I'll explain. So today's whole intent is to change out, this is a quick strut. So what this is the cheapest option you can get for a CRV is you go on eBay, go on Amazon, and these are like 180 bucks for all four. And it's just the cheapest strut, cheapest spring you can buy. And usually people just buy these on a car so they can flip it if they have blown struts, get it out of their way. Real cheap, real easy. As you can see, even the hardware is a pain in the butt. I had to cut it all out just to get it out of there. Not a fan, but when I was doing the lift, I was kind of more of a budget than I am now. So, subtle flex aside, it's time to do the upgrade. So the problem with these are, when you're off-roading, these are super oversprung. This has a progressive spring setup. So what that means is the more you flex, the harder the spring rate becomes. So it won't actually flex all the way flat. Like it'll just get to a certain point and the weight will not let it flex. That's when you start doglegging up. Now the solution is a linear spring setup, which is what this Dobinson, there you go. It's focused or not. So Dobinson is a linear spring, so when it compresses, it can compress completely flat without going to a higher spring rate. So it's made for flexing, it's made for more of an off-road application. So these are all for a CRV, along with the Bilsteins. So I wanted to go with Bilsteins because you can revalve these however you want to. These are for a CRV. They got multiple settings here for shirt clips. I'm going to give these a shot. I think these are going to be really good, and if nothing else, I can always revalve them for how I want to do in the future. But it's going to be a humongous upgrade over those cheap quick struts, as you can tell. And actually broke out these too. This is what the wagon came on originally when I bought it in 2015. These are, I don't know if they're actual Kikos. I don't know, they're maybe just knockoff. They're just maybe blue just to be blue. They're on Skunk 2 coils on lowering springs. And that's what the wagon was on. It was originally lowered when I got it. So what I'm going to do today is, I did this from the other night just to test fit, just to make sure it all worked. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then I'll start on the fronts, and I'll kind of show you the whole setup there. Well, since I got both the struts out of there, this one is trying to bind up too when I was trying to take it out of the back passenger side. So I had to take it all apart. So while it's all apart, sprung apart, we can see a good comparison here. The spring heights are about the same. I didn't even venture to say they're the same exact size. It's kind of hard to tell from the video, but yeah, just take my word for it on that one. Now the struts. Side-by-side comparison with the struts, and they're also the same exact size. So that's kind of something I was wondering about with the comparison, because it looked like when I put them together that the Bilstein was actually maybe a ½ inch shorter, but after completely stripping them apart, you can see dimensionally they're the same. So that's really good news for us. And the good thing is with that, when I measured this side after I put it down on the ground, I had about 1 inch more ground clearance. The bumper and a few other spots that I took measurements on pre and post. I'll go ahead and measure after I get all this together, and also it'll probably need to settle a little bit, because I know when I put those up on jack stands to let them down, they need to settle a little bit. So after some driving and stuff, it may settle back down to that inch, which again, wasn't really looking for more height, but I am really looking for this linear spring setup. And there we go. There's the whole strut put together, bolted on. And I didn't want to show the spring compressor because I hate using these things, and I don't recommend anybody else use these kind of spring compressors. But I went ahead and bought some. I know you can rent them from O'Reilly's or AutoZone, but they're only like 30-something bucks. And I'm trying to build up my obscure tool kind of list. But yeah, don't get these if you don't have to. It's literally one of the easiest and cheapest options. My spring decompressor works really well. You just set the spring down here and just say a couple prayers, and it shoots out the other side. I actually ripped out the box of that. I don't want to show you how to do that because I don't condone that at all, and if you know what to do, yeah, you can do it safely. Scary as crap, but you can do it. Anyway, this is the HRG front little strut spacer that actually goes with a 6-inch. So I'm going to reuse this one. I want to make sure that it'll work just fine, but this is attached to the top hat still, that spring perch. So I'm going to go ahead and try to put this on top of the new Bilstein Dobinson setup, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know if it's going to be too much or not. I kind of should have compared it before I took it apart, but well, to get you guys caught up where I'm at. So the spring compressor set I have will not fit in between these coils because they're a little too tight. So I actually had to use the wagon. So I put the bottom inside the fork and put the top hat up here and just had to slowly line it up and let the jack down, let that push up. It was a very complicated mess, but I got it in. And I put the strut spacer back on top. It's all bolted up. That looks fantastic. It's going to do well. What I'm doing now is something that I've seen other people do and I've heard other people do, but I haven't done it yet. And it's flipping the upper control arm upside down and switching sides with it. And that actually lets you have a little more clearance between the fork or the spindle and the spring. So we're doing that. So anyway, when I took that apart, this castle nut was stripped out, and I don't have any spare castle nuts around, so I'm gonna have to chase the threads on this one. So I'm doing that right quick. I just want to get you guys kind of caught up on that. So yeah, I gotta pull the other side too still, so I can flip that upper control arm. All right, so if I'm doing this correctly, you flip them over, switch sides, and that should keep everything all lined up the way it should be. And to verify that, this is the one that came off this side, and it mounts like this. So what I did is I overlaid it versus the way it's laid now. Same exact position. It's just instead of pointing it toward the coil, it's going to keep it more kind of out. I think that's the theory here. So I'm going to try one side, and we'll see how this lines up. I mean, in theory, it looks like it's going to work. I can't take credit for this. I just saw this on Lifted Honda Society. I'm not sure who was the first one to come up with this, but hopefully this works. I didn't want to originally do it because I wasn't quite sure of how it should work. But let me look at this, make sure that ball joint's not too stressed, and we'll go from there. I was going to run this, and everything was looking good, but I think I found the one downside of running these upside down. So normally when you do the travel and you push it all the way up, this part will go all the way up into this recess up here, and actually on the furthest travel up, it'll actually hit the top of that. So that's kind of your limiting factor all the way up here. But with this setup, if I try to push it up, it stops right there. And it's hitting right here on these creases because the way that's designed is just, it's hitting that. So that's going to limit your up travel a lot. And also if you hit that, instead of the spring taking the force, your body is actually going to take the force right there. So I don't know if it's different on CRVs or whoever else is doing this, but I would caution that, because that's actually hitting the body instead of letting the spring take everything. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back out and flip it back over, because I can't do that. I need all the travel up I can. All right, so this is back to the orientation it should be, and if you'll see, it flexes up in there. It goes all the way up in there, and it bottoms out all the way at the top, which is what you wanted to do, because that's a lot more flex. Because before it was stopping right about there with them flipped, but in the correct orientation, they go all the way up in there. Now the problem with them being in this orientation and what they're trying to solve is this spindle actually will rub the spring every once in a while, and I don't know the solution just yet for it, but maybe we can figure that out pretty soon. You can see it actually rubs a little bit on the inner side here, just because the CRV springs are just a little bit bigger. But fortunately, I really haven't had a problem. It makes a little bit of noise every once in a while, and you can definitely hear it. But aside from that, it's pretty smooth action, and I really haven't had any like major malfunctions on there. And I probably have 3,000 or 4,000 miles on this lift, and a lot of those have been off-road situations and going up and down with the springs and stuff. So I'll report back if anything changes with these new setup, but right now I'm just gonna leave it like this. All right, so I went ahead and was going to compare these two to see what the front struts look like, and look at that. That is a full spacer shorter than what I had originally. That's kind of concerning. So I'll go ahead and get these all put in, but I may have to talk to Ben about maybe getting me a double size front spacer. So I think these are 2.5 inch and 3/4, something like that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see how it ends up going. I don't know. It gives me a little bit of concern, but at the same time, that's pretty easily solvable. I just gotta talk to Ben. So we'll get them installed and see what we got. All right, took it on test drive. Everything's installed. And honestly, I gotta say the jury is kind of out. It's very, very bouncy, but again, these are just brand new being put in, so they got a pretty good break-in period still to go. I did a little bit of flex. I put the jack under there and jacked it up, and it's actually quite a bit less flex than I was expecting. It's about pretty close to what it was, so it's negligible. So the jury is kind of still out whether this is going to be all worth it in the end or not. Not 100% sold just yet, because all that together is probably about $1,000, $1,100 with suspension stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna have to actually give it some off-road testing and see what it's actually like when you're actually out wheeling with it. There's no net lift gain. I checked all the same spots I hit before. There's 0 lift that I got out of it, so no big deal there. I really wasn't looking for more lift, but I kind of want to check it. As far as the strut spacer I was talking about earlier, I think it's actually going to be pretty good for where it's at. It's like I said, there's no lift and there's no loss. So I don't know where that made it up, maybe in the spring or something. I'm actually kind of bummed. I was really excited to have this and be like, oh my gosh, that was the answer. That's so much better, but I don't know. I have to give it some miles. They definitely look a lot better. It looks a lot sweeter. But I guess one final thing is one teaser. If you made it this far in the video, it means you're pretty committed. And with that said, I've got a brand new set of wheels coming for this thing. They should be here. They should be finished about June time frame. Brand new set of braids. I cannot wait to show you what they're going to look like. I think they're going to be absolutely show-stoppingly beautiful. They're going to be a much more aggressive offset. It'll be, if you remember my Cosies, I know Johnny, if you're watching this, you know, you always bug me about my Cosies, but it'll bring them way back out to flush to where it was with the Cosies. These are a plus 37 or 38, so they're kind of sunk in a little bit more than a factory Honda would even be. And actually, when I looked those up, those are actually supposed to be for a really crazy offset car, and I didn't realize that when I got them. Anyway, I'm not making that mistake again. So the new ones I have are coming in as a plus 28 offset, so they're just going to be bring them out to where they're going to be back flush kind of with the fender well here. And I think it's going to be really super sick. I think it's going to look, it's going to just transport this car again, because I do want to change up the whole livery again. It's been about a year worth of the geometric mess I made, so it's time to rewrap it. I've got an idea to work with somebody who's we're gonna get this thing probably completely color change wrapped. I obviously don't want to paint it. I don't want to lose the Rio red. It's my favorite color, but I am going to go ahead and probably change up the whole look of it here real soon. So stay tuned for that, guys. But as far as this is concerned, yeah, positive, negative, I don't know yet. I'm not blown away. I'm not going to tell you, hey, go get this set up right now. Like, this is what you have to have. But this is why I do it. I do it for the fam. Anyway, I'm gonna eat some pizza with the fam, and then we're gonna have a nice relaxing day. So, peace, guys.